discuss navigating transitions to care home with Muna Young and Sherry Mayhew. Muna is a registered social worker and has a Bachelor of Social Work from Carleton University. She currently holds the role of Central Ontario Resource Centre Director or RCD with the Huntington Society of Canada. Along with more than 80 years of experience in addictions, child protection, and adoption, Muna has worked with a variety of individuals in multidisciplinary settings, including those involving children, youth, couples, and families. Muna is a kind and caring social worker who takes extra care to ensure families facing Huntington disease feel heard and understood. Her unique skill set includes patience, understanding, and empathizing, to name a few. The HD community knows that they are in trusted hands when working with Muna because she strives to bring her authentic self to her working relationships. She is a strong advocate who believes in collaboration to ensure the needs of her clients are met. Sherry Mayhew is a warm, friendly, and authentic registered social worker and is the Resource Centre Director for the Huntington Society of Canada with Eastern Ontario, Kingston, and Bellevue. Having worked in social services for over 20 years, Sherry is forward-thinking strategic leader who has a proven record of strength-based, client-centered practice. As a lifelong learner, Sherry earned her doctorate degree in education from Western University and her master's degree in education focusing on educational counseling from the University of Ottawa. She enjoys opportunities to teach and provide support to students, clients, and families. Sherry applies her knowledge of mental health, addiction, rehabilitation, and neurodiversity in her role within DHS. She embraces interdisciplinary teams and enjoys collaborative community health environments. Sherry is committed to community volunteerism, having held board member positions with the Southwestern Ontario and Ottawa. This session will discuss how transitioning to a long-term care home, also called nursing home, continuing care facility, and residential care home, depending on where you live in Canada, can be challenging. While most people prefer to stay in their homes, the increasing care needs of someone with Huntington disease can become more than what their spouse, partner, or family can provide. You and your family may not be at this stage of the HD journey, but there are resources here for you. It can be helpful to consider options available and plan over time, as this can offer a bit of control over situation and disease over which we can have little control. Over to you, Muna and Sherry.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so very much. We are so delighted to have you here. So again, my name is Sherry Mayhew. I am the Eastern Ontario Resource Centre Director, and my catchment area is from Ottawa all the way down to Kingston and Belleville. Thank you for joining us today. It's going to be an exciting, resourceful, and very interesting piece of presentation today. Lots of information, so please feel free to write down notes, etc. Muna, over to you.
I am Muna Young, so I am the Resource Centre Director for Central Ontario. I am a proud Niagara resident, so welcome to Niagara Falls, all of you that are visiting. We really appreciate all of you taking the time to attend in person and virtually today. And so without further ado, let us begin our journey.
Sounds great.
So as we take a moment today to express our gratitude for being able to meet with all of you in person, we also want to reflect on the importance of the land on which we gather, our provider and sustainer. The Niagara region is steeped in the rich history of the First Nation. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, the gathering places home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and acknowledging reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendships of Indigenous people. We recognize that we must do more to learn more about the history and current situation of Indigenous people. The Huntington Society of Canada stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the land on which we live. I invite Sherry to give a nationwide acknowledgement across Canada from the Ottawa area.
Thanks, Muna. So I've traveled from the Ottawa Valley, which is located on the unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. Today, we are joined by visitors across our nation I would like to acknowledge the important relationship that we have with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people, with the land we live on and we enjoy here in Canada. The Government of Canada explains that there are approximately 634 distinct First Nations communities, 53 Inuit communities, and 8 Métis settlements throughout the country, each with a unique historical, cultural, spiritual, and environmentally sustainable connection to their ancestral lands. As we gather here at our HSC conference, I urge you to take the opportunity to learn about these lands and consistently recognize the historical and ongoing relationships between the unceded territories we share with our First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. Let us contemplate how we can individually contribute to Canada's reconciliation with Indigenous peoples on Turtle Island.
Thank you, Sherry. In this presentation, we will explore the transition into a care home from different viewpoints, including those of individuals with HD, family members, and care team members. We understand that discussions about transition are unique to each situation, and we aim to provide valuable insights. This presentation will complement the information that has been shared during this conference. Over the next hour, we will share some insights and invite you to do some questions and comments at the end. When transitioning to a care home, it's beneficial to explore options and plan gradually. We acknowledge the importance of feeling home, and especially for individuals with HD. While staying at one's home is often preferred, increasing care needs may exceed what family can provide. It is important to note each Canadian province has unique health policy considerations that we need to navigate. While we will be offering a very general overview, we aim to guide you toward the next steps during this transition. This presentation serves as a foundation, providing resources and connections to support you in your journey. So what is in a name? When I say the word home, what comes to mind to all of you? What does it look like? Who's inside? Where is it? The concept of home is complex. It evokes various emotions and imagery. It typically represents a place of independence, privacy, safety, self-expression, pride, structure, cultural values. However, this definition has evolved over time. With our changing needs, it has grown. In the past, people, especially the elderly or those with illnesses, were cared for at home by their loved ones. Leaving home was often seen as a negative thing associated with losing your friends, your family, your independence, your autonomy, and it had a lasting stigma. The emergence of care homes aim to provide choice, control, and independence during some of life's most difficult moments. As our needs have changed, so has our idea of what home can be. The transition to a care home can be a challenging decision, which we will explore in this presentation. In our presentation, we might use some terminology interchangeably. So we will use care partner to refer to a spouse or a family member looking after somebody with HD. You might also hear us call them as caregiver. When we mention care recipient, we are talking about the person with HD who is receiving the resources and the support and service. You might also hear us refer to our organization, the Huntington Society of Canada, as HSC. In addition, you'll hear us use the acronym RCD to reference all of us resource center directors that are here at conference today. We will use the term Huntington's disease and the acronym HD interchangeably. And across the nation, various terms are used to describe care homes. So I'm going to invite Sherry to go through some of those terms to give us some clarification.
I think I got the PowerPoint down, Pat, so that's good. So did you know that care homes are referred to differently across Canada? In British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Newfoundland and Labrador, PEI, Northwest Territories, and Ontario, we all use similar language of a long-term care home or LTC facility to identify a care home. However, in Manitoba, care homes are referred to as personal care homes or PCHs. In Nova Scotia, there are 3 different categories of care homes: residential care, nursing home, or LTC facility. And our friends in New Brunswick, they use a variety of descriptions like nursing home, special care home, and assisted living residences to identify a care home. Confused yet? Wait, there's more. In Nunavut in the Yukon, such homes are known as continuing care centers. So despite the differences in the terminology, most of the descriptors use the word home in their title. So that's what we're trying to specify here, home in the title. For the purpose of this presentation, we will be using the word care home to encompass all of the terms that we just reviewed. So perhaps you and your family are not yet at the stage where you're thinking about moving into a different home environment. Or perhaps you're thinking that it's time to start having these conversations. Or maybe you've had these conversations and are contemplating different care homes and deciding which one would be a best fit. Today's presentation and the conversations are meant to encourage thinking about transitioning into a care home and be the catalyst to open discussions about housing and care options. These conversations involve the person with HD, their family, their friends, professionals, and are all meant to address the elephant in the room. Regardless of where you are in the HD journey, this presentation and the resources that we will be sharing are meant to be helpful. It is important to consider all available options and plan over time to help maintain a sense of control and promote living well in your home. Many families dealing with HD, including the person with HD, often feel a lot better and have a better quality of life once they have transitioned and that stress has dissipated. Contemplation is part of the journey, and there is support available to navigate through all of the decisions. So there is a lot of information to review in the next hour. And so a lot of these considerations are going to be just flooding you. So what Moon and I have done is try to take all of those decision making and all of those considerations, and we move them into these 8 themes or these 8 considerations that we are going to explore through the presentation today. So these are the grouped themes that we're going to be discussing. Number 1, be proactive. Number 2, the importance of building a team. Number 3, recognizing the right time to transition. Number 4, funding. Number 5, creating the right environment. Number 6, respite. Number 7, navigating emotions of the transition. And number 8, family considerations. So we are going to explore each one of these themes in depth and provide you resources to take away with you. Now over to you, Muna.
Thank you, Sherry. So the first thing we would like you to consider is the benefit of being proactive. Moving yourself or a loved one to a care home may be one of the most difficult decisions you're ever going to have to make. There are many things to think about and consider. Planning ahead can provide peace of mind for both the caregiver and the care recipient. It may also provide an opportunity for the care recipient to be part of the decision-making process by making decisions for themselves. Knowing the care recipient's wishes can also provide peace of mind for the caregiver and can help avoid additional stresses should a crisis or urgent circumstance arise. On a daily basis, we all make decisions about what is best for our own health, where to live, and how to spend our money. As your health changes, or if there's an emergency, do any of you know who would speak up for you if you could no longer do so yourself? Advanced planning can help you be in control of major life decisions, whether you have HD or not, should you be unable to do those things for yourself. We acknowledge that these types of conversations can be very overwhelming and bring on many emotions. However, they also offer the opportunity for reflection and communication regarding your values and wishes. Some questions we would like you to consider today in your preparation and planning are, What do I worry about most when it comes to my future health? What values, beliefs, and activities are the most important to me? And lastly, which is more important, the length of my life or the quality of my life? So please keep those things in mind as you're here with us today. Although having a conversation with trusted supports about your wishes is an important step in this process, there's also some legal issues that we want to bring to your attention. So these include how to document your wishes and preferences, how to identify and appoint a power of attorney for personal care and finances, the importance of creating a will, and how to document and advise your caregivers of your advanced health care directives, which in simple terms means creating a legal document that communicates your wishes about your health care, should you be able to vocalize that in the future, and should the need arise for somebody to step in and make your wishes known. So to help alleviate some of the confusion about these legal issues, HSE has developed a future planning fact sheet that you can all use as a reference point, because you can do a whole presentation on the legal needs, and we're not going to be able to cover that in one session. So this QR code, if you just take your camera to it, it will actually pop up on your phone and give you a link to the fact sheet. If that's a little bit complicated, don't worry about it. We'll have our website at the last slide, and you'll be able to access it all online at the HSE website. Although planning is meant to decrease stress, it can also feel incredibly overwhelming and leave many of us not knowing where to start. Some of us even avoid planning as a way to cope with uncomfortable feelings. Please remember that planning does not need to happen all at once or in this session today. To help make the best decision, it might be helpful to consider the following things. So start by creating a list of your priorities and your expectations for what care will look like. If possible, tour the care homes in your area and ask questions about their services and policies. During those tours, pay attention to your feelings. That may help you determine if it's the right fit for you. And ask a lot of questions about wait times, the costs associated with the particular home you're interested in, what the application process looks like, also that you know what to expect. As each province has its own structure in place for being able to apply to a care home, it's important that you understand the application process unique to your province. Planning ahead may give you the confidence you need to accept a spot when it's offered, so that you're not missing that opportunity and having to start all over again. Oftentimes, it's helpful to access supports when planning ahead. So with that in mind, Sherry is now going to share with you our next consideration, building a team.
Thanks, Muna. So what comes to mind when I say the word team? Do you think about your favorite hockey team? What about your favorite baseball team? Who was the last Stanley Cup winner? Who was the last World Series winner? I'll leave you for that to ponder. When you think about a team, do you think of a group of people trained for a specific activity, like a band or a troupe? Do you think about a pair or a couple when I say the word team? Do you think about a crew, a team that works together for a common goal, like a corporation, a sorority, maybe even on a construction site? So now when I ask you to think about the word team as it relates to you, what do you think of? Do you think of family, friends, supports, loved ones? This too is your team. This support team around Huntington disease is one of synergy, one of collaboration, one of coordination, one of community. You can feel it over the last 2 days. Therefore, consideration number 2 is about building your team. So building a team is an important health intervention for persons with HD for a variety of reasons. Number 1, persons with HD, and I say HD, may have or can develop complex needs. These needs will require specialized, coordinated supports from a team of persons. It is important to start building this team around the person with HD and their family, so you know who the right people are with the right specializations that can help. Number 2, researchers have found that working within a team can help decrease burnout. When an entire team comes together to coordinate a person's well-being, no one person is solely responsible for one person's health. Number 3, working in a team can also enhance a person's safety. The more people there are, the more people that can help. What this can mean is that there are more trained professionals for bathing and for feeding, for transfers, making it safer to support the care recipient. And number 4, the last reason why teamwork is so important is because teamwork can foster effective and enhanced communication. Communication and team, everyone communicates effectively with one another. The care recipient will feel heard, will feel validated, and they can be more satisfied with the care that they're receiving. Communication is also very important in keeping everyone informed of important and changing information that needs to be adjusted or enhanced. So as I just mentioned, teamwork is important for effectiveness and for safety. As care becomes more complex, the need for teamwork will increase. All members of teams contribute to the quality of care. So when we start thinking about moving or transitioning into a care home, it's important to know what the health care team it is important to know that health care team members prefer to work as a team. There can be different members of your team during the transition. These include both formal and informal team members. So let's first talk about formal members. Formal members of your care team are those professionals who are paid and whose have an occupation is meant to support the person as a care recipient and their family. These professionals can include your psychiatrist, neuropsychiatrist, neurologist, rehab therapists, physios, speech language, etc. They can also be social workers, your genetic counselor, your psychologist. Each of these formal team members will communicate with each other once consent is signed, and their communication can be captured in a treatment plan or during family meetings. Each of these professionals on your formal team are an amazing resource for you. So don't be shy, engage them early, have a conversation, communicate. Not only will you have formal members of your team, but there will also be informal supports that could be a great addition to your team. So informal supports are the many forms of helpfulness and assistance that people freely give to each other on a daily basis. They can include friends and family, neighbors. They can also include immediate family and extended family. There are also HSC informal supports who can become members of your informal team. They can include people that you meet at support groups, at other HSC volunteer initiatives. This conference itself is filled with opportunities to meet new people and build new friendships. Maybe the person sitting right next to you is your next informal team member. You never know. Your informal team members play a vital role. Why? Because they're often the ones that'll answer your emails and your calls and your texts much sooner than the professionals. What is also great are these informal supports help to create a peer network that you can build prior to transitioning into your care home, but you can also maintain them once you're there. Now over to you, Muna.
Thank you, Sherry. So have you all heard of the expression, timing is everything? So consideration number 3 delves into how to determine the right time to transition to a care home. As most of us understand, HD is a disease that gets worse over time. This often leads to us needing professionals to provide some care as the symptoms progress. To make decisions easier, consider speaking to your healthcare professionals who regularly see the person with HD. They can offer a lot of objective perspective and provide essential information for making decisions. They can have more complex discussions with you around capacity concerns and help facilitate a conversation and act as a mediator. The decision to move to a care home is very personal. When deciding how to best meet the needs of the person receiving care, we encourage you to consider not only their needs, but the needs of the caregiver. Many individuals often find great relief and improved quality of life once they move to a care home. It can actually be surprising how many dedicated and caring staff there are in those facilities. They often build a special connection with people with HD, as typically they're more similar in age as the person with HD. These staff members are often eager to learn about HD and want to enhance the quality of life of their residents. With that being said, we understand and appreciate that not all care homes are created equal, and that there are many legitimate fears and worries associated with moving into a care home. Your local RCD can be a readily available resource to help navigate the transition and to be a strong advocate for the care recipient and caregiver. Safety considerations often influence the timing of the transition to a care home. One of the primary goals of caring for someone with HD is to enhance their quality of life while maintaining their independence and safety. HD advances relatively slowly in stages over many years, making it crucial to review needs on a regular basis. Being proactive can help avoid crisis situations and reduce feeling overwhelmed. Many people with HD rely on support from occupational therapists, physiotherapists, and speech language pathologists to help equip them with the devices and aids that are designed to keep them safe. So unless a choice or behavior is going to pose them a significant risk or a risk to somebody else, we encourage everybody to allow the person with HD to keep engaging in those behaviors without going into a power struggle. It may be time to consider transitioning to a care home once all the safety measures that are in place at home are no longer effective. So I like to plug my fact sheet, as you can all see. So HSC has developed a fact sheet on safety that you can use as a reference point. This fact sheet covers the potential risks to people with HD and provides resources to address those risks. This is particularly a good fact sheet because it will list the topic of the risk that you're encountering and give you a strategy that corresponds with it. So I would encourage you to either scan the QR code now that's on your screen or to go to our website. And you'll see it under the title Safety and Independence in HD. When considering the right time to move to a care home, it's important to keep in mind the impact on the caregiver. Caregiver burnout is a very real thing and may contribute to the timing of their transition. Only when we first help ourselves can we effectively help other people. Caring for yourself is one of the most important and often the most forgotten thing you can do as a caregiver. When your needs are taken care of, the person you care for will benefit too. As a caregiver, it can be helpful to share your struggles with your support team, letting friends and family know what you need from them. It can be uncomfortable asking for help, but learning how to communicate your needs as a caregiver will allow your supports an opportunity to be a tangible part of the team. Helping others creates a sense of belonging and reduces isolation. It can provide a sense of purpose, allowing friends and family to help you as a caregiver, gives them an opportunity to feel included, and it gives the caregiver much needed rest. It also gives the care recipient the opportunity to engage with others and get used to being cared for by other people. And I'm going to shamelessly plug my caregiver support group in Niagara. So if you are a Niagara resident and you're a caregiver and you don't know about our group, we run every 3 weeks on a Thursday. So feel free to reach out to that if you're feeling you need support. Also visit our HSC website because we have some virtual things that go on throughout the year for caregivers. The caregivers, the Caring for Caregivers and Families with HD fact sheet is available in this QR code on the screen. Same thing as before, just hold your phone up. You can also get it on the website. So of course, we recognize that there is often a financial cost with all of these things that we're talking about. So to address the financial aspect, Sherry will be sharing with us consideration number 4.
Thanks, Muna. So Canada's Minister of Health in 2022 had expressed, and I quote, "All Canadians should have access to the safe, quality healthcare they need and they deserve." I think everyone in this room can state that they believe that as well. However, for anyone who has tried to navigate the healthcare system in Canada, it is confusing, it can be challenging, lots of barriers, lots of hurdles. You may not know what you're entitled to, you may not know how to get it, and that can be a very common experience. What I'm trying to say is in Canada, there's a no one size fits all answer. However, what we do know is that it is important for care providers and for care recipients to be knowledgeable about entry points and costs associated with moving into a care home. Why? Because there may be a cost associated to that new care environment. So that's why the 4th consideration is about funding. These funding sources can be either public or private, and they can be the different considerations, which I will be exploring briefly, trying to help navigate the system. So public funding sources include financial help from the government to cover the cost of care services. Public funding assistance can come in different forms, like a healthcare plan, a benefit, or a government subsidy. Eligibility for government support and benefits can depend on where you live. It can depend on your age. It can depend on your culture. It can depend on your profession. So for example, here's a mouthful. The Government of Canada has the Canada Pension Plan Disability Benefit Toolkit. Got that? Which may be helpful to your situation. You may also be eligible for a Canadian tax relief benefit if, for example, you were 65 years of age or older and involuntarily separated from your spouse due to circumstances beyond your control. This may be the case if your spouse may need to move into a care home due to their HD progression. Again, those are only 2 very specific examples. There are so many others that we need to navigate. But what we do know is our federal government has voiced a commitment to ensure quality, safe, and respectful care for persons in care homes, and an investment of billions of dollars into home and community care. That we know. So what this means is that you kind of have to be an investigator, and that there could be public funding sources available to you in your situation. So you can keep on checking the government website, like Government of Canada, to see what they are communicating about these pieces. Once you find an opportunity that suits you, grab it. Start exploring it. Complete the application. See if there's an eligibility assessment because those will take a little bit of time, but fill those out. There are people that are knowledgeable about different public funding sources. Like, for example, those in your informal or formal teams. You don't have to know it all. Sometimes you just need to know who to connect with. Then there's another possible funding source, and that's private funding sources. So private funding for a care home involves using your own money to supplement the cost of living in a care home. This can include savings, it could include investments, it could include your own income, right, to cover personal expenses. But then there are other creative solutions, gifts of money, there could be donations. And for all of us tech-friendly people, there are the crowdfunding platforms, right, like GoFundMe, that can also be considered private funding sources. So again, it's not about knowing all of these things, but it's knowing who to connect with that can provide you with some examples and ideas. What also could be helpful is making a list, your own personal list, listing your public and private funding sources. See what's available to you. Making this list might illustrate what you can combine. It'd be like having the best of both worlds, being able to see the beautiful sunrise through the trees. For example, let's take me. I'm going to make a list, and I'm going to compare my public and private funding sources. Perhaps I'm eligible to stay in a subsidized care home, but I can't afford doing other things outside of the home once or twice a week. The best of both worlds. There are members of your formal and informal team that could have creative ideas and solutions for your situation. So speaking to your own, perhaps your financial advisor, someone at the bank, and you know what? Those representatives in the care home, they have really great ideas. You may want to speak with them. Don't hesitate to initiate these conversations. Have them early and start planning early. So over to you, Muna.
Thank you, Sherry. Adapting to new routines of a care home can be challenging for the person with HD. They'll find themselves living in an unfamiliar environment with new rules and relationships. It can be emotionally challenging and leave them longing to feel at home. Families often take on a proactive role in the moving process, and with very good intentions, they reassure the person with HD not to worry about the details. While this support is valued and appreciated, the person with HD may benefit from having involvement in the moving process prior to and following the move. Being able to maintain as much autonomy as possible is very important and can improve overall quality of life. For the purpose of this presentation, we will be focusing on ways to create an environment that is inclusive of a person's culture and identity. And so we all grow up in unique families with our own traditions, our own heritage that we come with. And so for the purpose of this part of the presentation, we're going to talk about how to bring that with you to the care home to help create that sense of home. So there's 3 important ideas when talking about supporting culture in care homes. They are cultural competence, cultural responsiveness, and cultural safety. So briefly, I'll define each of them to help alleviate some confusion. Cultural competence means being aware of your own cultural beliefs and values and how these may be different from other cultures. The key values here are inclusivity, respect, valuing differences, equity, and commitment. Cultural responsiveness is about being sensitive and responsive to the specific cultural needs and preferences of all individuals. It means recognizing, acknowledging, and adapting to the unique cultural backgrounds and beliefs of each person. Cultural safety is about creating an environment where individuals feel that their environment is spiritually, socially, and emotionally safe, where the environment respects each person expressing their culture and identity. These ideas are helpful to keep in mind when thinking about how to ensure that the person with HD feels that their care home environment honors and supports their identity and culture. As culture is an integral part of an individual's identity, creating a familiar and culturally respected environment in a care home is important for the well-being of the person with HD. Maintaining cultural practices, traditions, language is vital in preserving their sense of self and their own personal history. Not all care homes are going to be familiar with your culture and with your traditions. Therefore, there's a large opportunity to share your heritage with fellow residents, staff, and volunteers. Here are just a few ways you can help others learn about your culture and identity. So, one, when you are deciding on a care home, ask the care home if they're familiar with your specific cultural needs. If they are not, ask if they would be open to learning about them. This can be done through staff training to understand different customs, languages, and traditions. 2, inquire about multilingual staff and multilingual materials like menus, activity guides, and signage. 3, decorate your room with cultural symbols, artwork, various items in your traditional languages. This helps create a more familiar atmosphere and provides a sense of comfort for the person with PhD. And lastly, when celebrating a cultural holiday, provide the care home staff with the information that they need on traditional foods, cultural music, dance, art. Maybe suggest that they have a designated space for cultural class practices, for religious practices, and things of that nature. And include family members, other residents, and staff in conversations about your culture may help to improve the cultural sensitivity in the home and create a sense of fellowship and inclusion. As a caregiver and family member, it's important to remember that you possess a lot of information about the person with HD. You may be one of the people responsible for sharing information about culture, tradition, and history. Different cultures may have varying preferences about personal privacy. It's essential to respect these cultural norms and ensure they are maintained within the care home setting. Privacy in terms of communication differs between the various cultures. Staff may need to be reminded that your loved one only prefers to discuss personal matters privately with family, while other people with HD may be more open to group discussions. Understanding and accommodating these preferences is vital. Privacy is also closely linked to preserving an individual's dignity. Cultural sensitivity in care ensures that residents' privacy is maintained while they also receive assistance with personal care and daily activities. Therefore, it's important to give consideration to what information you're sharing as the family member. Connect with your local RCD to have conversations about ethics and privacy and disclosure to help you navigate how to do this with the care home. I now invite Sherry to talk to us about consideration number 6.
Thanks, Muna. So respite care is a form of short-term relief or time away for the care provider, and is consideration number 6 when transitioning into a care home. Respite care involves others looking after a care recipient and meeting their needs during a short period of time. While it's commonly associated with in-home services, respite can also be available while transitioning into a care home. So this is what I'm going to be talking about. There are 3 different things that I'm going to be addressing. One is in-home respite care, stays at a care facility, and adult day programs. So as mentioned earlier, thorough prep is crucial for a successful transition into a care home. You can start by inviting others into the home prior to the move as a way of preparing for that care home transition. By inviting others into the home, you are creating a respite moment that can help you integrate others into a daily routine and build their team of supports, while also allowing the care partner a short break throughout the day. So let's explore some suggestions for small, brief respite moments in the home prior to the transition. Respite moments could come from a visit from a friend or family, community member. A respite moment could come from a trained professional, like a personal support worker, who can help with bathing, etc. There could also be a sitter who could provide a respite moment on the overnight. Do you know what a sitter is? So a sitter, also known as a companion or a patient observer, is a paid professional who provides assistance and supervision when needed. Sitters often provide support during the overnight hours. Sometimes they may just sit by the bed, sit outside of the room, sit in the hall, but they are available and responsible should the person wake during the night and they need support. This can help encourage a better sleep experience for both the caregiver and the care recipient. Respite moments can be short or they can be long. They can be minutes, they can be hours. They can be paid, they can be volunteer. No matter what the respite moment looks like, it's important to embrace these ideas first as preparation for the transition. The next consideration is a respite care stay. So a respite care stay is an experience where you get to stay at a care home residence, perhaps maybe even the one that you're considering moving to kind of give it a try. As there may be a cost associated with respite stays, we encourage you to reach out to the care home and see if they offer this trial experience. But it's a good way to kind of try it out. Respite stays were common and available prior to COVID. And what we're seeing now in Ontario is there's a bit of a switch back to it, more embracing these as opportunities. Planning for a respite care stay at home can involve everybody in the team, the care recipient, families, team members. When it is planned, it can be less stressful and well communicated. However, at times, respite care may be unplanned but necessary, like when there is an unexpected event, when a caregiver, for example, might need to be away for work or for personal reasons, or when the caregiver themselves experiences a health issue and can no longer provide safe care that is required at home. We never want to think about moments like this, but by their very nature, these kinds of situations do occur. So in these emergency situations, which can catch us off guard sometimes, communicating and talking about these unplanned events and respite care options can also help us understand the benefits of a respite stay. So as you consider respite stay, involve all your team members because they can provide insight and options that you may not have considered before. And lastly, the last type of respite service that I wanted to mention was a day program. So a day program offers structure and supervised activities in a group setting, and they can occur outside of regular routine of the care home. Yes, there's eligibility, yes, there's availability concerns, and yes, cost may vary, but it is an option, and it is a viable respite option as well. What these programs do is offer a social outlet, for example, where friendships can be built and there's a sense of community. Such programs can preserve independence and autonomy and a way to stay engaged and connected with others. In some communities, there are HD specific programs that are available. In other communities, not so much. However, persons with HD may be eligible to be integrated into other day programs that could be age specific, culture specific, or interest specific. So what I invite you to do is speak to your formal and informal supports to see what other programs they may be available and they are engaging in that could be of interest to you as well. So I just reviewed those three options: respite moments, respite stays, and the different programs. We know that caring for someone with HD can be exceptionally demanding and often requires around the clock attention. So taking regular breaks is important, and utilizing these respite services is one way to go about it. There are advantages for both the care provider as well as the care recipient for these respite moments. Consider for the caregiver a chance to relax, recharge, reduce stress, alleviate some worry. They can also regain some focus foster renewed energy, patience, and compassion. But it also has some advantages for the care recipient as well. It provides them an experience to change and a change of environment, allowing them how to communicate their needs the best way that they know how. It also allows for different levels of stimulation, interest, and socialization, introducing them to new people and professionals who can provide additional support. Therefore, their team grows. This experience can be very reassuring and validating for a person with HD. It's also very important in living well. Over to you, Muna, for number 7.
Thank you, Sherry. So we recognize that the transition to a care home has a very large emotional impact on everybody involved. It is completely normal to feel uncertain and to second guess your decision all throughout the process. It's essential to recognize that all emotions, good and bad, are valid, they're real, and they're worthy of being supported. As a caregiver, it's important not to see this move as a failure or as you being selfish. Conversations don't have to happen all at once. They can happen over time to help things feel more manageable, and it can ultimately bring relief to everybody involved. When considering a move, you might experience a wide range of emotions as a caregiver, including guilt, loss, sadness, anger, shame, resentment, and a sense of defeat. On the other hand, you may also feel incredibly relieved that you're no longer the only person responsible for your loved one. And that is completely okay. When we discuss these emotions, it's possible to anticipate some of them, but you're really not going to fully know until you go through and walk this journey. It's important to remember that these emotions are natural and they're part of the adjustment process for all of us. And it's also completely natural to feel both emotions at the same time. Support from family and friends and healthcare professionals can help individuals and their caregivers navigate these various emotions. Next, I'm going to explore the emotional impact on caregivers on the person with HD in a little bit more detail. So, I'm going to start with the caregiver and then I'm going to go to the person with HD, forgive me for that. So during the transition, it's normal for caregivers to feel that they have lost their role as a caregiver. Please try to remember that you're still an integral part of your loved one's life. Now you just have a wider support network to meet their needs. So ways to cope for the caregiver during this transition. So we want you to maintain and build meaningful social connections. Take into consideration the hobbies you've forgotten about, the interests that you haven't had time for, and the friends you haven't been able to call for a long time. Seek out support to come to terms with any feelings of loss and grief that you have. This can be formal, like your doctor, a therapist, social worker, your friendly RCD. It can be informal, like your friends, your family, your normal coffee shop guy. Keeping in mind that whatever you're feeling, it is normal. Not all caregivers and care recipient relationships are loving and close. So we want to highlight that living with somebody with HD can be incredibly difficult. So it's natural to be sad about not having a more positive relationship with them, and also to be relieved that they're transitioning on to a different home. Another thing to keep in mind is managing your expectations about HD. The progression is different for everybody. And then we want you to make the most of the visits if you're going to continue to visit your loved one in the long-term care home. Visiting your loved one can be emotionally difficult, but it's also an incredible opportunity to reestablish a relationship and to create new opportunities to socialize together in a new way without feeling pressure to be a caregiver. Lastly, we want you to think about reprioritizing self-care, because as Sherry mentioned, it can rejuvenate the caregiver and inadvertently make them stronger and more attentive to be a support to the care recipient. So whether it's going for a massage, playing sports, a night out, having a really good sleep in, please engage in whatever it is that's going to reinvigorate you as a caregiver on this journey. On to the person that's living with HD. When we consider the emotional impact transitioning to a care home has on the person with HD, it might be helpful to remember that the severity and the type of symptoms they are having are going to influence the emotional experience for them. So many people with HD actually feel relieved and they find comfort in having a multidisciplinary team supporting them in a care home. Where other people will feel worried, fear, anxiety, perseveration, uncertainty about this transition. Although a person with HD may struggle to recognize the emotions in everyone else, they do still feel their own emotions, and their memories of emotions are intact for them. So it's normal for the person with HD to communicate their feelings through a change in behavior rather than an expression of feeling. As a result, it's really important for all caregivers to be attentive to behavioral changes and to speak simply and patiently to people with HD to allow them time to share how they are feeling in their own unique way. Some strategies to aid the person with HD include allowing them to talk about their problems and challenges and their feelings without having to make it about HD. Understand that it may be unrealistic of us to expect them to have insight into their challenges and behaviors. And then to accept that the person with HD may never actually come to terms with their circumstances. And lastly, remember that there is some degree of impulsivity in the actions and comments of people with advanced HD. And so rather than fight against that, it can be helpful to remember it and embrace it. As family is often an integral support to the person with HD, I invite Sherry to share with us consideration number 8.
Thanks, Muna. We made it to number 8. So we understand that moving your loved one to a care home and adapting to the changes can be challenging and can be a challenging experience. Can be difficult getting used to a new routine and new living arrangement. But transitioning to a care home involves many adjustments that do take time, but it is possible to be successful. Our hope is that everyone involved in this transition will adapt positively to the new environment. You're part of that change. It's crucial for family and care partners to stay engaged with the person with HD during the transition to a care home. Your involvement will not only support their emotional well-being, but also provide the care home with essential information to help them make it feel more like home. So for a smoother transition, it's encouraged that family members, as I've mentioned, remain active. It also conveys reassurance to the person with HD and demonstrates your commitment to their well-being. Your involvement with the care home can facilitate great communication. Here are some tips to help the new care home understand your loved one better. Number 1, share your likes and dislikes. We all have our favorite foods. We all have our favorite movies. We all have a favorite game we like to watch. So communicate those preferences. Communicating these likes and dislikes can make the new home feel cozier and more like home. Routine matters. Routines can provide comfort and reduce anxiety. Sharing a log of your loved one's daily routine with the care home can be very helpful in ensuring that they feel comfortable and at ease. Journaling this routine will also keep you involved and effective communication. Demonstrate those positive relationships with the care home team, the management team, other residents, and fellow caregivers. Take the time to get to know the staff. As Muna has mentioned, they do play a crucial role in supporting your loved one. Being able to recognize the staff and residents is also one way to highlight and demonstrate your involvement. Engage actively in the new care home. Go to meetings, share a meal, participate in social events, become part of the community. We also understand, though, that there may be times when visiting is challenging. We know that not visiting may evoke different emotions, but through your previous involvement, you've recognized that your loved one is receiving the care, and they know they'll come and visit you again. It's okay to miss a visit or two. Now, I'd like to learn a little bit more about your own moving experiences. With a show of hands, even those on Zoom, who here has moved more than twice in their lifetime? Oh, there's a lot. Who here has moved more than 3 times in their lifetime? Woo, just about as many. Who here has moved more than 4 times in the last 5 years? I have moved a lot. Actually, I still have things in boxes. Anyone else have things in boxes from their moves? Oh, look at the show of hands.
Been there for 25 years.
Been there 25 years, still has a thing in boxes. Love it. So when I moved, I couldn't wait to explore my environment, my neighborhood. In a care home, you get to do the same. Is there like an outdoor space? What's on the recreation calendar? What's going on during lunch and dinner? Families will often connect with one another during those activity times as well. So take the opportunity to meet the neighbors, share events, ask lots of questions. Recalling my most recent move, my fourth move in my 5 years, what I found is that hanging pictures, filling my space with my memories was what made my place feel like home. Each care home does have safety precautions and policies in place, but you can still bring those memories. I don't like to be told no, so I'm very creative. What I've done for folks is being able to color photocopy pictures, put it on posters, laminate them, and then put them on the walls. That doesn't cause a safety hazard, does it? As you are getting to know your neighborhood, observe how the other residents also express themselves. For example, do they have shadow boxes outside their doors, showcasing achievements? Maybe you could consider creating like a biography, displaying something on the bedroom door, for example, sharing information about how they would like to be greeted. So for example, I was introduced as Sherry Mayhew, but my real name is Sherry Lynn. My mom and dad are the only ones that can call me Sherry Lynn, and I must have done something really horrible. So I would have on my door, call me Sherry. If you have creative ideas on how to bring your favorite colors, your personal items, or even your TV into your space, don't hesitate to explore these possibilities with the care home provider. They may also have other creative ideas to share with you. Now it's my turn to plug. I'd like to highlight a valuable resource and share a reminder about an excellent presentation delivered by one of our colleagues, two of our colleagues, RCD, Resource Center Director, Anna Perret and Barb Horner. Hi, Barb, I know you're in the audience. They presented This Is Me, Capturing and Sharing Memories video at the Fall 2022 virtual conference. By simply scanning the QR code, it'll direct you right to the YouTube channel, and you'll be able to view that at a later time. Muna?
In all of this, we want you to know you're not alone. Your local RCD is here to be a support to all those involved. We want your transition to be successful. As RCDs and social workers, we have an important role in changing the way people consider care home setting. We can offer training to the staff so they understand the needs of the person with HD, and they too can become knowledgeable and sensitive to care needs and understand the disease progression. RCDs also help prepare you in the transition into a care home by providing information and connecting you to resources. You may also want to connect with your local HSC chapter, groups, gatherings, Facebook groups to learn more about the experiences of others. Please use this QR code on the screen to find the RCB in your area. Similarly, there's another QR code that if you want one of us to reach out to you to help you with any of this, this will take you to a page that you can put in your details, and it will cue the resource center director in your area to reach out to you. And then my last QR code I promise. If you're interested in learning more about HD, we want to remind you that we have a website, we have over 30 fact sheets, and we have additional resources like a caregiver's guide, a physician's guide, and the understanding behaviors booklet. And all of these can be retrieved from our website. This QR code, sorry, this is my word, is going to link you to sign up for the newsletter. On to you, Sherry.
Thanks. As we wrap up, we understand that each of you in the audience may find yourselves at various stages in your journey of considering and preparing for the move to a care home. No matter where you are on this path, take pride in the progress that you've made. We sincerely appreciate your attendance at this education session, and it marks a significant step in your journey. Our aim has been to offer valuable insights and resources to initiate and sustain discussions about transitioning to a care home. We understand that each situation is unique, but know that you're not alone. Our hope is that our information that we shared here with you today and all the QR codes will serve as useful information along your journey. We now invite any questions that you may have, or comments, or raise any queries that you'd like us to answer.
I just recently, my wife went into a home in October. It's frustrating because nobody really knows in Manitoba how to go about it with somebody under 65. Thankfully, HSC is involved helping me. Did a lot of roadblocks, tons of roadblocks with finances. And I hear it's easier in Ontario and Saskatchewan because there's an involuntary letter separation, where Manitoba doesn't allow for that unless you're 65 or older. So there's a lot of challenges. You definitely want to research because you'll find a lot of roadblocks otherwise.
So just for those that are on Zoom, I will just kind of rephrase that. The takeaway is to do your research in your own province to be able to see what kind of funding there may be or options that you may be eligible for when you're transitioning to a care home. Thank you.
Financial planning was touched upon. I add a financial planner to that formal team. Meager needs or big needs, it's always thoughtful to sit down and get some consultation on how to even save early on those pennies that might lead into a couple of things: keeping your loved one at home longer because you have some of that financial ability to do so, or to help provide an improved, experience when they transition.
Great. So for those that are on Zoom, a great suggestion from the audience was to also involve financial planner as part of your formal team to be able to help you navigate and plan early for things that may occur in the future. Thank you so much.
We recognize that the people left at home still have to be able to afford cost of living. So really engaging, the resources to afford this cost does not make you a horrible person, because you also still have to live at home and keep yourself fed and a roof over your head. So please reach out to every service and any benefit that's out there. Please take it.
Just a reminder that our resource table is on this floor as well, with our business partners and other resources information.
Great. And just another comment from the audience for those on Zoom. If you're looking for a HSC information and resources, although you're not here in person, we would recommend that you go to the HSC website. All the information is there for great resources, and guess what? More QR codes.
Does anyone else have it? Yeah. That's a great question. So for those of you joining us online, it's when to know to be proactive, what's too soon. And so my answer to that would be, it's never too soon to have the conversation. So when we talk about autonomy means control over your own self, governing your own life. And so doing that very, very young, pre-symptomatic, really having conversations with your loved one about what your ideals are, what you want for yourself, that sort of can create comfortability in decision-making for those people they love. When you become symptomatic, I would definitely encourage engaging whatever your governing healthcare provider is. So here in Ontario, it's HCCSS, and they come out to your home and they do assessments around what services you qualify for. You can have those people come out earlier and begin some of the preliminary assessments, and they will tell you, okay, you're a bit early for this, but you're on time for that. And so getting them involved, getting yourself out there, knowing who the person is to connect with, it's never too soon to do that. And then again, all of us RCPs know our provinces fairly well, I would say. And so you can connect with one of us and we can guide you into clients, into provinces. Well, there's two. I think you were first, yeah.
People come to assess because there's the 78. Is that all into their assessment, or is it kind of like tailoring and not?
So the question for those online is about the people who come to assess and wait time and how that works. For most things, it's a need-based assessment. So if you are deemed to have more need, you jump on the wait list. So the wait list for people with Huntington's tends to be much shorter in Ontario. I can't speak to the rest of the country. However, I have to give it on Ontario centric because that's where I'm from. But in Ontario, you might jump the wait list, but you might not get your home of preference. So it's about really planning ahead so you get on the list for the home that you want. Does that make sense? Yes, you can in Ontario. I can't speak to any of the other provinces. Manitoba, so what? Okay. Yeah, so someone in the audience is saying Manitoba is similar to Ontario, where you can go to one home and wait on the list for your preferred home.
And Alberta.
And Alberta, so I'm sharing Alberta as well. Thank you guys. And Newfoundland. Okay, great. So that's amazing. You got them just done. And we had a question,
Progress.
Sarah, comment?
Yeah, just your comment on the previous question. The actual created a lot of resistance, but because we had conversations previously, it sort of helped me cope with the response that occurred once the transition. Those emotions were so broad, they may have lost sight of
So someone is sharing very beautifully in the audience around, you can have these advanced discussions and your loved one can be on board, but as the disease progresses, they may lose sight of what their well self wish for themselves. But having the conversation in advance is very helpful as a loved one and caregiver, because when they are struggling, when a person with HD is struggling, You as a caregiver can fall back on the knowledge that when they were very healthy, that this was the decision that they wanted you to make for them. And that can give you the strength to keep going and move forward, because you know that they're very well self and their healthy functioning brain wanted you to do this for them. So thank you for sharing that with us.
I'd also just like to offer another suggestion as well. You all possess a lot of information about your loved ones. You know what their triggers are. If someone tries to feed me breakfast and I'm not a breakfast person, I immediately am going to get agitated, right? So there's a lot of things that you can do ahead of time to have those things written down that can be communicated to dissipate behaviors before they transpire. So there's lots of different ways to prepare for a transition into a care home, right? And so I just want to leave you with that information and something to ponder, because you have the wealth of information. You are the knowledge keepers.
What would you say to those who don't necessarily, my mother, we ended up linking her into from New Brunswick Slate's term assisted living facility. I wouldn't say we have the ability of transitioning into that. We did not have a different switch. It was very much a flip switch. And it has been a bit of a living nightmare for our entire family. And what would you say to people like that who don't have, you don't get the luxury of being proactive or getting to discuss finances or getting a choice in where you're going, or the emotional impact it has on your family or your children or your kids?
So someone in the audience is beautifully sharing with us that sometimes there's no luxury in planning ahead, that we're thrown into crisis situations and we gotta just do it on the fly and survive. And that happens a lot in our community and outside of our community. I would urge you to never do it alone. So we have this beautiful organization, and all of us RCDs are incredibly skilled, not to toot our own horns, but this is what we do for a living. And we are here for you. We're here to be the sounding board. We're here to say, okay, here's what is the most urgent. Let's focus on these things. Let's prioritize. Let's help be the backbone, help be the navigator, help be the advocate. Because sometimes you're just in the hospital and you're stuck and they need to go somewhere. And so that's where we're going to build on our team. Like Sherry was sharing, we're going to use the hospital social worker. We're going to use all of our social services that are available in your province and come together to support you. I've been through those transitions and they're rough. I'm not going to lie, they're really hard. And the only way through it is through it together. And this weekend.
And just to add, let us walk side by side with you. It is really challenging and very difficult. We understand that, and that's part of what we do. So please reach out to us when you are facing those crises. They happen, it's reality. And it's not easy for any of us, but we're here for you.
One of our RCDs in the audience was just echoing how important it is to reach out. Also, it's never too late. So your loved one could already get in the care home and you're like, this is a hot mess of a disaster that's happening here. And I'm not happy with their care. And I'm really having all these horrible feelings about it. Reach out to us. We can go into that care home and offer all kinds of education and advocacy. And we can't promise you miracles, but a lot of us are very strong social workers and advocates, and we will go in there and we will fight battles for you. So please do. It's never, ever, ever too late, no matter where you are in this journey, for us to help navigate this with you. Somebody else in the audience has their hand up.
I just had my brother-in-law is on the list, and he came up with a quick number of years ago, and we had just moved into our home and renovated, and so it wasn't, and he was still quite walking and talking and feeding himself. And he was still, so we said, no, this is way too soon. So then he doesn't just move down the list, he completely gets off the list. And then they made us wait a period, and then we go back on the list, and it has now been, I don't know, 5 more years. And of course, now he needs to be fed, he needs to be toileted. We have a lot of support coming in 3 times a day, plus a respite on Sundays. We do get a lot of support. But when we call and say, hey, where is he on the list? There's no answer. And I'm just wondering if you're willing to, or until, like, it doesn't matter whether you choose a private room versus a. Like that's not even been approached to us, like private room versus a shared room, that kind of thing. Does that make a difference on whether you can get a spot?
Someone.
This is Ontario.
Yeah, it's an Ontario region. So someone is asking about the wait times, and if you passed up on in Ontario, if you passed up on an opportunity, you go back to the bottom and start all over again. Ontario centric, there can be some nuances when it comes to whether you're gonna pay for the room private or semi-private. It can change where you sit. But what I would encourage you to do is to reach out to your local RCD, who is going with me. And then we're going to call HCCSS and make some noise and find out exactly what's happening in your unique situation, because sometimes it's a matter of not knowing which homes are really good for HD patients and then adding those homes to the list.
We've kind of limited ourselves, we've chosen one.
Right.
And not put any other this, because otherwise we're not, that we only have one facility in Fort Colborne. And for us to have to go out of town, we can't be really there for them otherwise. So we really limited ourselves, to be honest, that's probably part of it.
So some, they're just adding, just for the online, is when you limit yourself on the options, you are gonna wait longer. So if you have a choice of 10 homes and you only pick one, then you will naturally wait longer, because you've got to come up with the best thing for that one. But we can talk later, and I can 100% support your family after that. Anyone else want to say anything or questions? Or anything? Oh, I think we're done. I'm getting that we need to go.
Okay,
All right.
so it's you.
Oh, it's me.
It's you.
Okay, well, thank you all for coming. And thank you to everyone who joined us virtually.